To trigger or not to trigger? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler to face our fears and sufferings head on, or to oppose them to avoid an unfortunate feeling, we shall find out the answer in the following video. Hey everyone, it's Matt. If you need a translation on my Shakespearian language, in this video I'm going to be talking about retroactive jealousy triggers. Triggers are, of course, any type of thought, word, place, name, anything that sets off a painful, highly charged response within you. And I'm sure there's a professional reason for them being called triggers, but I believe because it feels like someone's pulling a trigger and making what feels like a gun go off inside of you. It's very, very painful. It can be very, very painful. I know for me, my retroactive jealousy would get triggered like 25 hours a day. I mean, everything I do would trigger my RJ and the anxious responses that came with it. Even if my girlfriend cooked me a beautiful dinner, I would get triggered thinking, well, I bet she's done this before with her ex. I bet this isn't special for her at all. She probably, did this all the time. I'd even get triggered during sex thinking, she's already done this with someone else. What's the point? If I ever found out the name of an ex-lover, anytime I'd hear that name, I'd get triggered. And I'm sure you have your own triggers, that kind of set you off, and they probably come to mind for you right now. But there's an interesting debate going on in the world of retroactive jealousy about triggers. Some people say you should avoid being triggered and work on yourself instead. Others say to face your triggers head on and deal with them to overcome retroactive jealousy fast, and then you can work on yourself later when these thoughts no longer bother you. I'm going to give you my personal take on triggers and how I went about using them to my advantage in my own life. So by the end of this video, you should have a good idea moving forward of how you want to approach your own triggers in your life, making it easier for you to finally overcome retroactive jealousy. Now, before we jump in, it would mean so much to me if you could just take a fraction of a second and go ahead and smash that like button real quick. YouTube's algorithm loves likes and comments, and the more you do this, the more YouTube puts this video out to more people that need to see it. So if you're willing to do that real quick, I would really, really appreciate it. So in the retroactive jealousy world, there tends to be a minor debate about RJ triggers, retroactive jealousy triggers. In one of the books on retroactive jealousy that I read, it basically says, take inventory of your triggers, think about, which people, situations, places, films, songs, whatever, trigger jealous thoughts and anxiety, and how you can minimize your exposure to them. And it basically goes on to say that it's better to avoid your triggers if you can. So this author says to avoid them as much as you can, but in another book about retroactive jealousy, a different author says we should expose ourselves to triggers. And over time, doing this actually rewires our brain's neuropathic network, so it eventually reroutes away from triggering the anxious response. And it says it's basically like exposing yourself to any fear. Like, it takes time and slow exposure, but over time it really works well. So then I went online and looked around and found an article on Medium that said, like, if you avoid the movies, the songs, the places, the people with the certain names, these triggers, you're, again, less likely to recover because you run into these places everywhere. So you should not avoid any of these triggers. So that's kind of 2-to-1 in this case, but who's right, who's wrong, what's the answer? So here's what I'll tell you from my own research, which was about 30 minutes or so, full disclosure. I could only find one instance of someone recommending to avoid triggers. Everything else I read said to treat retroactive jealousy like OCD, like obsessive compulsive disorder, and never hide from your triggers. Instead, allow them to come in and deal with them as they come. And honestly, I cannot agree more with this. For real, this was about 99% of me overcoming retroactive jealousy as fast as I did. It was facing these triggers and these horrible thoughts head on, not hiding from them at all. I would let them come in, I'd feel the pain, and then I'd refocus my attention back on what I was doing. I didn't explore the thought, I didn't ask questions, I didn't do any type of compulsive behavior, I just felt the pain and refocused. And every time you do this and not get wrapped up in the thought, you are telling your brain there is no danger in thinking these thoughts, and eventually it will stop releasing so much adrenaline into your system. Remember, it's not the thought that bothers you, it's the feeling that bothers you. It's the emotion that comes up. So if that feeling is gone, if that emotion is not there, the thought will just go in one side of your mind and out the other. There won't be any fuss or anything at all. And one of the main reasons for me facing my triggers like this, having to do this, was because everything triggered me. So it was hard for me to avoid triggers. If I tried to avoid triggers, I would avoid my whole life. I'd lock myself in a dark room and make new friends.
Hello, friends. This is Penny and Chip, and say hello to Used Napkin.
When I say everything triggered me, I mean everything triggered me. I would even get what I call like delusional triggers. Even if I went to a restaurant with my partner, I would start wondering if her and her ex had already been to this particular restaurant before. You know, even if there was like no chance that that would even ever happen, I'd make up movies in my head of them being there. It was all this delusional thinking. And this would happen, you know, with going to dinner, watching movies, different, you know, romantic moments, vacation spots, sex positions, you know, things like that. I'd just automatically assume and think that, oh, she's already done this before with somebody else. This is not special. But here's what worked for me. If you suffer from this 24/7 delusional types of thinking, when people get stuck in this loop of triggers and anxious responses, they usually try to rationalize it, to be okay with it, to think their way out of it, or even react to it kind of like I did, like, oh, why did this have to happen? Oh, this has probably, you know, happened before. I'm such a fool for thinking otherwise. But you can't. There's no way to think yourself out of it. There's no way to come to terms with it. So the best thing to do is to understand flat out that your brain is a liar. That right now, my brain is in this lock mode and is sending way too much adrenaline into my body, trying to find the danger in absolutely anything when there is no danger at all. Anytime you're trying to enjoy the moment and something random triggers you and you know for a fact it's not true or not important, just sit back and recognize, brain, you're a liar. I'm not dealing with you right now. And then go back to what you were doing. You know, you're still going to feel the emotion. It won't feel good, but you aren't giving into it and you aren't letting your retroactive jealousy win. Now, there's also another way to look at this delusional type of retroactive jealousy thinking, and this will be much easier to understand when a lot of your anxious responses have calmed down, but just hear me out for right now. So what if your partner and their ex came to that same restaurant together before you met? I mean, what if they did? Does that mean it's not special when you're there with them? Like, of course it's special. It's special because you are together. Like, you think your partner is sitting there thinking, oh, I've already been here with my ex a whole bunch of times. No, I go to restaurants all the time with my wife that I've been to with handfuls of different girls, and I've never once sat there and thought, yeah, last time I was here was with this person. Oh, it was so nice. It was so romantic. I loved every moment. Of course not. That's silly. Like, I'm in the moment with my wife and enjoying it. And I understand, like, our brain tells us otherwise, but see how irrational that is? Like, even if everything you've done together, they've already done with someone else, which, by the way, they haven't, but what would be the big deal? And if you truly think it is a big deal, that's an internal factor entirely. That's not, you know, feeling confident in yourself. That's feeling inferior to others. Feeling like unless you are the first one to do something with them, like it's not special at all. And that type of thinking will get you nowhere. So it's time to let go of some of those beliefs and understand that you are being lied to by your brain, and just don't give into it right now, okay? It's not you. It's your retroactive jealousy. So got sidetracked for a second, but getting back on track to our normal triggers, my advice to you from my personal experience is don't avoid them. Look forward to them. I know that sounds crazy depending on how painful they are, but remember, thinking these thoughts cannot physically harm you. They cannot kill you. They don't feel good on the inside, like they bring up a not so nice feeling emotion, but guess what eventually will happen? Without you needing to do anything, that emotion will go away. It always does and always will. The more you do this again and again and again, the more you're actively telling your brain that there is no danger in thinking these thoughts. There's no need to release all this adrenaline in my body, and therefore your brain will very soon follow suit. And for my own life, there was a certain song that would trigger me a lot. Wild Thoughts by Rihanna and DJ Khaled. Wow, wow, wow. And when I heard it, it would remind me of a club where my girlfriend had met this dude that she ended up going home with. I mean, this was before they met me, obviously, but the song reminded me of that because the one time I'd ever been to that club, I heard that song play. So even though that song wasn't even released during that time that they were together, I envisioned it playing while my girlfriend and some other dude were, dancing on each other and making plans to go home together. So anytime I heard that song, I would change the radio station. Anytime I was out and I heard that song at a bar or restaurant, I'd go into the bathroom or something until the song stopped playing. And sometimes the song was even louder in the bathroom. Wow, wow, wow. But I was avoiding it. I was running from it. I was allowing retroactive jealousy to control me, to control my life. Anyway, once I read about exposing yourself to triggers and how this would, actually help me and nothing bad would happen to me, I started playing that song over and over and over again as much as I could. Again, facing it head on. And I didn't feel good at first, but I would just listen to the song. I'd feel that not so good feeling, and then I'd just refocus back on the words of the song. Okay, I wouldn't let the thought of my girlfriend and that whole situation creep in. And guess what happened after just a few days of listening to that song? I could listen to it without getting triggered at all. And I realized this actually works. So I began doing it with other things I knew would trigger me. I'd write things down on sticky notes, like names and places and things that I knew that would generate that feeling. And yes, it would suck at first, but eventually it stopped sucking. Eventually all my triggers no longer triggered me. And had I ran from them and avoided them and changed my life entirely to make sure I didn't feel any pain, well, then I think I'd still be on the run today. I'd still be suffering from retroactive jealousy.
Until I've simply decided I am never leaving my house again.
So as with most of my videos, again, I'm no psychologist, I'm no jealousy mastermind dude. I'm just a guy that suffered from retroactive jealousy and found his way out. And this was exactly how I did it, not running from my triggers. A lot of people I've worked with one-on-one have found a ton of success facing their fears head on instead of running and avoiding, but you decide what works best for you, okay? Put a plan in place and start conquering your retroactive jealousy once and for all. That is by far the most important thing. So if you enjoyed this video, please take the time to go ahead and smash that like button. That'll help get this video out to more people that need to see it. And also, if you're not already, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell so you can be the first to know when I post a new video. And also, please leave a comment below. Ask a question, whatever it is. I respond to 100% of the comments. And one more thing, if you are someone who suffers from retroactive jealousy like I did, please check out the links in the description below to my retroactive jealousy 7-day course and coaching program. With right now, I've got a massive super good discount going on, so please check out the links below, and also to our free retroactive jealousy Facebook group. So thank you again for being with me today, everyone, and I'll see you next time.